What is up, fight fans? It is another episode of Open Mat, and Drake is touching our face. I liked that very much. This is audio, so you couldn't see it, but he was touching the camera, and it looked like he was caressing my chin.
Wonderful beard.
His beard's gone. That's why you look different. You look like Paul Felder. You look like a beardless Paul Felder.
I figured, with no events right now, perfect time to, regrow. So get a new facial hair going. Yeah.
Davison over to the right of me, and he is eating chicken wings, something I'm incredibly jealous of.
Pizza, bro. How do you confuse the two, man?
Because I was looking at Paul Felder, Drake. Thought I saw a chicken bone.
I'm not seeing the Paul Felder, man. I'm seeing... No, it's going to take me a second, especially without the beard. But, at the end of the day... By the way, Drake, what was that post from earlier today? Was that your high school quote?
Yes, that was my graduation picture and quote, yes.
You were class of 14?
Yep.
Word up. Same here.
Holy hell, buddy. I'm old. Class 2009.
Class of 14 in the house.
Yeah.
So wait, I'm trying to see what was your class quote, Drake? That's important to know.
Yeah, go to my Facebook page or Instagram. Either one you follow on, you'll see it. It's the plus thing.
Mine,
pull it real quick.
Mine was, watch out for COVID-19.
Yeah, that too. So if you missed last week's episode, we talked about Dana White's media tirade against... I don't have you on Facebook. We talked about Dana White's media tirade against the media and how he called us all wimpy. Did either of you guys start lifting weights after our talk last week?
Just running. Just cardio.
That's definitely wimpy.
Not even going to lie. I've been doing cardio too.
Wimpy. We're all wimpy because I did cardio too. I ran and biked.
Good Lord.
We also talked about the Olympics being postponed. Update on that. They have been rescheduled to next year, like we said. And Jon Jones arrested. So Jon Jones being arrested will lead us into the first segment of today's episode. And Jon Jones was sentenced to, 90 days house arrest or something like that? No prison time. Drake, what did you think about Jon Jones' sentence?
It was kind of what we expected at the very least, right? Blaine's a little frozen here for me, Davidson. I don't know about you. We lost him.
He's frozen on my end too, unfortunately. We got to save the day here, my man.
Yep. Yeah. But anyway, it seemed like at the very least what was going to happen, at least from what I remember. A lot happens in a week, and surprisingly, a lot has happened in a week compared to, what's happening right now. A lot more is happening than we expected to. But being a repeat offender and all that, it's like, okay, this is what we expected pretty much. I don't know if I'm not really surprised about it. I'm happy some sort of punishment, even though it's like the least amount of punishment he can get. But it's what we expected essentially, right?
I expected it to be a little bit. No, you're back, Blaine.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm back. I was like, why is Drake cutting me off, the asshole?
I'm not even going to lie, man. I expected it to be a little harsher. I think he definitely got a slap on the wrist. And I think those comments from the judge from years back, now by no way or any means am I advocating for him to be punished more, man. I feel like we could be vulnerable on these airwaves, and I can say back when I was young and stupid, still kind of young and stupid, but back when I was younger and more stupid, I too had a run-in with the justice system maybe once or twice, back in my early college days, and comparing what I had handed to me to John and comparing what he has done to what I've done. It doesn't anger me, and nor do I advocate for any way, shape, or form for him to be punished because I understand what that means and what kind of toll it can take on you mentally. But at the end of the day, I think John's lucky, man. I think he got a slap on the wrist.
I'll say this. I think
different situations, though, Davidson, right? You're not a world champion.
No, I know that. No, definitely. Definitely. Well, but I was represented by pretty powerful legal people. But at the end of the day, like I said, don't need to divulge into it. It's just at the end of the day, I just can't get the words out of my head from the judge a few years ago that said, don't come back. And so if you say don't come back, do not come back, or we're gonna confine you to your house for 60 days. Which, by the way, that's what everybody's doing. But I mean, regardless.
Okay, now my thoughts is it was an appropriate punishment just because Jon Jones is a world champion. I don't think making a martyr out of someone because they're of high stature is appropriate. I think the punishment must fit the crime. And if you want to punish Jon Jones for his second DWI, you got to follow whatever Arizona's state laws are for a second DWI, whether he's a champion or not. Now, the gun, they found a bullet. They didn't really have as much proof on him actually shooting a gun. We all know he did it, but you can't prove it, so you can't punish him for proving it. Drinking and driving, we can prove he was drunk. They did the test. I don't know if you guys saw the video, but he wasn't a jerk to the cop either. We remember the Corvette video. He was a jerk to the cop. This time he was very, very polite to this officer. And I think it was do you guys write for Bloody Elbow? Because I'm going to go in on him for a second.
No.
Okay.
Yeah,
so do y'all know the article I'm about to talk about? They posted one that said the officer that arrested Jon Jones has had racial profiling reports against him. I'm like, what does that have to do with it? I watched the video, and like all of Twitter was lighting him up on that. I'm like, this is just clickbait. That's all this is. But I believe the punishment fit the crime for Jon Jones, and I hope he learns from it. He admitted again he has a problem with alcohol, and I really do hope he takes some time off. Let Thiago Santos and Reyes fight for a title, and he come back and win it for a third time.
What about Jan, man? You think I saw Thiago come out and say something about it. I mean, surely the two fights that would make sense would be Reyes and Santos or Reyes and Blachowicz, but you would go with Thiago over Jan. I get it, the injury kind of clauses there, but I don't know.
Well, first of all, Thiago, congratulations. He's a dad. He knocked up Yana Kunitskaya.
Wait, that's not April Fool's, though? Wasn't that
No,
April
it was
Fool's?
posted today.
I saw it yesterday.
Oh, did you? Let me see.
Really?
Yeah, dude, I'm pretty
April
sure. I
Think
mean,
about that, a beautiful Brazilian-Russian future cage fighter.
That's a
coincidental
breeding
timing.
experiment is what that is. It's like if LeBron James and Serena Williams had a child.
Oh, God.
Be the biggest athlete ever. Be a four athlete. A lot of people ask me when April 1st. It is on April 1st.
I told you.
But it's still up.
Maybe it is.
That it was an April Fool?
I don't know if it was or not.
You can't tell. That's why I hate April Fools.
I do too. She left it up. It's not like she deleted and said, "Haha, I got you." She's still pregnant, so that is a mean cage fighter that probably already has CTE. Let's be honest.
Oh, God.
Child probably already came out because both of them have taken beatings from Cyborg and from Jeez.
Oh.
So, were y'all okay with Jon Jones not being stripped of the title, Davison?
Yeah, I don't think he should have been stripped. I think the only thing that has ever advocated him being stripped in the past, was the hit and run, and that's where obviously there are issues within a moral compass that has to take place for you to hit some car. Whether he knew, obviously, probably didn't know that there was a pregnant woman involved on the other side of it. I would assume that the answer is no on that front. But even then, whether it's a pregnant woman, an old woman, a man, someone your age, or a fellow fighter, you hit and run. That kind of shows a little bit more of an offsetting moral compass than, in my opinion, than just getting behind the wheel of and under the influence of something that he even said he's had an unhealthy relationship with.
What about you, Drake?
Just to touch on that unhealthy relationship thing, I saw people be like, "Can you have a healthy relationship with alcohol?"
No.
Just a funny counter to it. So it's like,
Yeah,
just a funny nitpick. But as for stripping him, yeah, I don't know. I still kind of feel the same about it, even after everything. It's like, that seems a little bit extreme, but feel like he still needs to go away for a certain amount of time. So it brings into question, the interim title, no matter what, right? So, yeah, stripping seems extreme for this situation. I have a feeling
Look, if
I
Jon
mean,
Jones starts stripping, we're going to take him out of the UFC altogether.
yeah, I mean, he's already gotten in trouble with strippers in the past, so it wouldn't be surprising. um, so, as for stripping of the title, yeah, I mean, I don't think that's going to happen no matter what, unless something really bad happens. If he gets worse sentencing or breaks his, whatever is happening with him now, his 90 days of probation or whatever it is. So yeah, stripping him of the title, stripping in general. Let's just it's probably not neither going to happen. You never know with that second one.
I don't think he interrupted a UFC card. I think he was a few months out from a fight anyway, especially with this coronavirus. It couldn't have happened at a better time for him, to be honest with you, because he won't hold up the division. I don't think stripping was the right idea anyway. So last question on this topic. Do you think, or no, not really a question, what is the over-under on Jon Jones fighting with an ankle monitor?
Davidson.
You didn't give a number, bro.
I'm asking what the over-under is. I'm trying to figure out.
Over-under if we don't have a number.
Do you think it happens?
Oh my god.
Leave me alone. I'm not a Vegas guy.
Here's the thing, man. You did say that it bet professionally, as far as it being the best time for it to happen to him, I could probably agree with that. But, as far as PR is concerned and as far as his public perception, I don't know if there was a worse time for it to happen.
True.
That's just my two.
True.
Yeah.
Drake,
Yeah, in terms of the division and, just fighting right now, yeah, it's a really good time because there's so much up in the air, and it's just still crazy to me what is going on with UFC 249 and Khabib and Tony, which, I'm sure we'll get into that more, than how Dana's still really trying to make things happen. But, man, it's just like, how much longer, right? Like, after the 18th, we're going to know if the event happens, first of all, which I'm leaning towards no. It just seems so ridiculous at this point. But after that day, we're going to know if the schedule is going to be, postponed for sure. I mean, it's still kind of up in the air with some of the events. I know UFC Lincoln is still planned at the moment and all that. Yeah, in terms of, literally fighting for Jones, yeah, great time to keep your title, from being stripped of you and all that. But then, yeah, as for just the overall perception and making headlines, not a good time at all. There's not many headlines.
Next topic. Submission Underground 12 happened, and it was phenomenal. Just the fact that Chael Sonnen managed to pull it off. Did you guys watch Submission Underground? What was your thoughts on the production of it and everything? Because I was highly impressed. Drake?
Yeah, it was really crazy, honestly. I mean, so, Chael did all the commentary by himself. The show flew by. It was so fast. So I got some insider knowledge here for you guys, like I promised. He was saying, that it was in a grain silo the whole show, if you were paying attention, right? He's like, yeah, we're here in a grain silo, not giving the specifics of the location, but apparently it was like in a big barn, like not when you picture a grain silo. I mean, you look it up, it doesn't really make sense for it to be like in a big cylinder type thing. But apparently it was at some barn out randomly in, Oregon or Washington. I don't know exactly which state, but they're very similar. So it's the same thing anyway. And the fighters would just go in and out. The procedure was really like, they're really strict about things. They did it all like how you should have done it for this situation to be as safe as possible. You could see them wiping down the cage like after every match. Yeah, they did a really good job in terms of just pulling it off, really having certain people like the regulators in different rooms, because the only people in the room were like the timekeeper, then obviously the referee, and then the fighters in the cage, and I think that was it. So 4 people in the main room where things are actually happening, then like their corners are in the back or whatever, other commission people. Everybody was split up. Chael was in another room, not even out there watching as closely as you can, watching on TV. Yeah, it was a very impressive, very odd thing. And the whole thing about this was, to me, like, okay, UFC is looking for a spot. What's from stopping them from doing this exact same thing? If they do it just how Submission Underground did, what's stopping them? The only thing I thought of was like, oh, well, I guess there's corner people for the fighters, which is true. So they can't exactly come out, but they can be in the back and then, separate. It changes things a lot, obviously, in terms of having a fight. And then another thing was all the grapplers had to have like the full kind of bodysuits on, not a bodysuit, but, like only their hands, their heads, and like their feet were exposed. So that was a thing. But then if you're fighting and everyone has that and it's all equal, then why does it really matter, right? So yeah, that was my biggest takeaway. Honestly, was like if the UFC or Bellator's not going to do it, but if the UFC really wants to pull something off, why doesn't Dana just go to Chael? I mean, they're good buddies. Why doesn't he just go to him and be like, all right, dude, so can we do this? Like, where's this place exactly? And to go figure it out, right? So that was my biggest takeaway. Well done. Interesting that Chael seems to be wanting to put on another show, maybe on Sunday with Craig Jones and Vinny Magalhaes. Sign me up for that. I mean, that's a great match to put on maybe this week or next week. But it seems like he wants to keep going on too. And if he's already done it, why not? He's already pulled it off well.
Davison, I see you grinning over there. What you got? Come on, Eminem.
Of all people, there's a penis around a meaning. Of all people,
Blampkins.
Of all people to continue to push the anti-wimp agenda, of course, the bad guy is the one carrying the flag. And ESPN even showed, a couple of highlights from it, because ESPN at this point will show whatever they can and however they can. I am also very down to watch Jones and Magalhaes grapple. I did not watch Submission Underground, and I will admit to guilt in that effect. However, I did see highlights. Yes, I know. I'm getting the thumbs down. However, at the end of the day, could you imagine John Anik coming in, live inside this silo? This is UFC Fight Night, like Schmidt versus Teixeira. Oh man! If anyone's gonna try to pull it off, though, it's Dana White. Let's be honest.
I will say this: I was super impressed by Chael's, not only his chops to carry the show by himself, but to put the whole thing together. I truly see Chael Sonnen starting his own promotion one day from all this. I can see that happening because he handled that perfectly. Chael Sonnen is a genius. Let's be honest here. He can get under some people's skin, but he did a great job holding that together. I talked to Ben Egley, shameless plug. You'll catch that interview on my website, fight-library.com, this weekend. Talked to Ben Egley, and he was talking about it, and he was like, yeah, dude, it was like I was just there. I was like, okay, tell me where to show up. I think it was in Oregon, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, most likely.
He's like, yeah, it was like super smooth. Chael didn't really go back and forth with things. Like, okay, it's gonna be here. Show up this time and all that. And he was like, it was a perfect event. It was like no stress on it. And as far as nobody being there, he's like, most grappling matches, there's nobody there anyway. It's more like a soft crowd when there is people there. So it really wasn't that big of a difference. So yeah, I was super impressed with Submission Underground. I think that's going to have more eyes on it too. Chael Sonnen did a great job, and I think he's starting his own MMA promotion within the next 5-10 years. Put your money on it.
I mean, he's already started that one, so yeah, man, I believe it.
He'd be the guy to do it, no doubt about it.
Agreed. Next topic. Khabib has officially pulled out of UFC 249. He's not fighting. I don't think he is. So on his Instagram, I'm going to read the post real quick. On his Instagram, he posted, staying at home in quarantine and reading the reaction of people to the situation around my fight. It turns out that the whole world should be in quarantine. Governments of all countries, famous people around the world urge people to follow all safety requirements in order to limit the spread of the disease to save people. And Khabib is the only one relieved of obligations and must demonstrate free will and train flying around the world for the sake of a fight. I understand everything, and I'm definitely upset more than you to cancel the fight, probably like all others. I had many plans after the fight, but I cannot control it all. The greatest countries and the largest companies of our time are shocked by what is happening every day, by the situation that changes unpredictably. But Khabib still has to fight. Is that what you're saying? Take care of yourself and put yourself in my shoes. I can hear him saying that, by the way. I can hear him saying it. I like the move by Khabib, honestly. It's a dangerous thing. This virus, you don't want to bring it home to Russia and have it make even worse in Dagestan or wherever you're at. I understand we want the fight. I understand it's been made 5 times. But I want to get y'all's thoughts on it. Davison, what do you think about Khabib's message to everyone?
I think it's smart. I think it is vigilant. I think it is something that is probably going to turn Dana White's blood probably to around 145 degrees Fahrenheit. I also believe, and dude, let's just get something out of the way right now, because I've had DMs already about it. And if you're listening to this podcast, and I point you into the direction of listening to this podcast, and I may not point you in the direction of listening to others, it is simply to get this message across. Do not, and I seriously mean, do not come into my inbox with this Khabib is scared BS. Don't do it, dude. Seriously, like it. I open my, because right now, as these two gentlemen know, and maybe anyone listening to this might not know, I have not had a cellular phone for the last 6 days, and because of the trickle effects of COVID-19, I might not have a phone for another 2 weeks. Because of all of this, I only am getting on social media about once or twice a day, and I'm really cutting off from the rest of the outside world. And, you know, I get on Twitter, and I have 2-3 DMs of, see, bro, the eagle is scared, dude. He's scared. Newsflash, geniuses. No, he's not, bro. These are cold-blooded, no-holds-barred, blood-sucking killers. No one is scared of anybody. Like, it drives me insane when people come out of the woodworks and mention that someone who fights in a cage, let alone boxing, let alone kickboxing, but also has the ability to have their limbs ripped from off of their flesh, they're scared. Give me a break, dude. That's all I have to say on that subject.
Time out. Aaron Till is admittedly afraid of Yoel Romero, so that whole point is invalid. It's not all of them.
But he would accept a fight with Yoel any day of the week, I think.
Yeah, he would. Drake, what are your thoughts on Khabib's message?
Man, he's in like the worst. I want to use harsher language here, but Keith told us not to. He's in like the absolute. Wicked. He's in the worst position to be in right now. I mean, really, think about it. He's doing what is logical, right? He's going home to be with his family and not risk. Okay, where's the fight? Huh? Where is it? Nobody knows, right? So, and I think he brought this up today. It was either today or like last night, but he's like, hey, you guys want to tell me where the fight is? I'll try and get there. You know, if do you know where it is? Somebody tell me. Like, he's all being sarcastic about it. I'm like, yeah. So I mean, he
said, "Show me location."
Yeah. Show me location. Where is? I mean, yeah. Send me location now. He's doing what is normal, what is smart, what everybody's doing, and his boss is almost the only person in the world who's trying to make him still go to work in the sporting world, aside from Vince McMahon. So I mean, it's like. Dude, it's and now I saw that Dana says, okay, so here's the thing, right? So apparently Russia's allowing private flights or whatever to leave Russia now. At first we were like, oh, there's just no getting in and out or whatever. So there's a chance, right? If he knows where it is, he wants to. That's what it sounds like as of today. I know he talked to Akamoto. He did more Instagram live stories and whatnot. And Dana's like, yeah, everybody knows that he's not fighting. But he's like, okay, well, this is... We're playing a little game like back and forth here between Boss Man and the actual fighter who's being, you know, the smart guy here, or not. Okay, it makes sense for Dana. You know, he wants to make his money and all that. But so it's just he's in a really tough spot. Everybody's obviously giving him shit for being, you know, doing what anybody else would do in that situation, I think. I mean, so it's just it sucks for him. It sucks for the fight, but I mean, hey, we've waited this long. We can wait a little bit longer for it to happen. As much as the Gaethje fight would be awesome versus Ferguson or Khabib, whoever, put Gaethje against anyone, it's an amazing fight. Don't bother even ruining any of this. Just wait a little longer. I didn't even get excited for this because I knew I wasn't going to get happy or excited until they were in the cage, as anybody should have. How can you get excited for it at this point? Until it's fight night, right? We've seen it too many times before. And they announced it 5 months out in the first place. Like, come on, you guys are really gonna tease us this bad this time? And no, what do you know? A global outbreak happened this time. So I don't know, man. It's really unfortunate for Khabib, but he's doing what he should be doing.
So Davison,
I wanted to circumvent too and ask you guys a question that we didn't plan on asking because I think it's important. If you are Tony Ferguson, and I'll pose the question to both of you, I know what my answer clearly is. If you're Tony Ferguson and a contract is sent to you to fight Justin Gaethje, are you taking that fight? I'm not.
No, hell no. Especially Justin Gaethje. Justin Gaethje is the most unpredictable fighter in the division. He is the dark horse of the division. I'm Tony Ferguson. I'm fighting for one thing and one thing only, the title. Because the last time I fought somebody that wasn't for the title was Kevin Lee. I won it, and then they took that belt from me. If I'm Tony Ferguson, I'm holding the UFC's feet to the fire because he has all the leverage now. He's the only contender right now. Not Conor, not Gaethje, not Poirier. He is the only contender right now in the lightweight division. It's not stacked like it was. It's fairly laid out. Tony Ferguson is that guy that deserves to fight for the title. He's on what, a 14-fight win streak? It'd be absurd of him to say, "Oh wait, they can make me not fight for the title." No, there'd be riots in the street.
I think 12.
Yeah, I mean,
but you're close enough.
Yeah, it is 12, close enough. Yeah. Yeah, it's like, okay, if he's gonna do it, you can't fight for anything less than the undisputed title, right? But in that case, you're like, man, it's I want to use harsh language again. You can't. It's messed up to strip Khabib of the title for this. That would be absolutely ludicrous if they were to strip Khabib because he decided not to fight during an event that nobody knows where it is. And
I mean, without using, expletives here too, I think ish could hit the fan if they try to strip Khabib. That is something, trying to put on events, whatever. You're going to have a divided, you're going to have a divide there. People just want to see some sort of something. And now when, Kirk Herbstreit's coming out talking about how we might not have football and at the end of the day, people just want something. And that's where you'll have, that's where you'll have that divide. Now, what you will not have a divide on is if you strip Khabib, I can guarantee you people are not going to be on the UFC side at all in that regard if they do that. No way.
Yeah.
The first part of this question, Davison, you were mad at people saying that Khabib, there are people coming out the woodwork saying he's scared and what have you. He has 19.5 million followers on Instagram, okay? That is amongst the highest in the UFC, among there with Conor McGregor and Paige Van Zandt, for very different reasons, obviously. With that many fans, there's not that many people as knowledgeable. I hate saying the word casual unless I'm saying I'm a casual, but it's a lot of casuals coming out the woodworks just to talk about Khabib. That's all it is.
It's really all it is. And, you'll look in the comments and you'll see a bunch of people saying, that what does this tarnish his image or legacy in any way?
No.
It shouldn't. It absolutely shouldn't. No way. Like, absolutely not. However, I've even seen that thrown around. People are crazy. And this goes back to what one of the very first things we said in the history of the very short-lived history of this podcast so far. You have MMA media over here, and you have MMA fans over here. There's not really a Venn diagram you can use to cope them together. There really isn't.
All right, so last question on this topic, guys. Did y'all see Conor McGregor on his live stream say, "Add me in"?
Yeah.
I would have killed to see that. I really would have. That would have been amazing. The two guys beefing on.
I just wish.
I don't know why
Khabib saw it at all, because I don't know if he even saw it. Right? He didn't react to it, but I wish he would have said something about it.
Imagine though being Khabib and you're thinking it's a one-way thing. And are you talking about the one with Okamoto?
No, he was on his Instagram Live. He was doing it.
On his own. His own.
Yeah, his own.
Oh, and then Khabib just willingly gets Conor in there, and
that would be amazing.
Oh no. I was thinking you were talking about the Okamoto thing, and if Okamoto just kind of pressed the button and released the hounds in that,
that would have been a bit.
All right, so Last thing we got to talk about is kind of perfect segue into it with this coronavirus stuff is the UFC. I just sent y'all a message. It just went out for some reason. I don't know. Anyways, the UFC, what do they do now? UFC 249, they are obviously still trying to go ahead with it. But should they? We've already sacrificed 2 cards of the MMA gods, UFC London and UFC Columbus, which had some really great fights on it, to the UFC Khabib versus Tony. And guess what? The MMA gods laughed at us. It's like, ha! You think we really care that you gave us Leon Edwards? Okay. And Thanos came and snapped the card away.
Look, dude, if they're going to have the card, I'm not mad about it. Like, am I going to think it's a little bit irresponsible? Yes. Am I going to have reservations about the health and safety of fighters? Yes. Does it make me a bad person that I want to see fights?
Yes.
Potentially. But at the end of the day, am I going to be mad about it? No, I'm not. I'm starved at this point. I really am.
I watched I watched grappling the other day. I will watch the hell out of a UFC 249 headlined by Jessica Andrade and Rose Namajunas as a contender fight.
I'm in.
Drake, your turn.
I mean, yeah, I pretty much agree with pretty much everything Davidson was saying there, but I'm not as starved because, I've been doing a lot of fight rewatching, and a shameless plug for my top 20 greatest women's fights of all time. If you haven't checked that out yet, go check it out. Watch all those fights back. And then Submission Underground, of course, that happened. So I'm not as starved as you are, maybe, but I'm not going to complain if we get to see that. It will be a bummer, though. I've seen people bring it up, and it's hard not to agree with it. With the circumstances, it's like, are we really getting, going to be getting the best of the best with all of the shifting and moving around affecting like training camps and everything? Are we going to get these fighters at coming in as best as they could have if everything was normal, right? So that's the thing to think about. I mean, obviously not the biggest factor in terms of, hey, we're just getting a fight, we're getting a fight at all, right? But is it going to be as good as we hoped for? You never know how the effects are going to be there. And then the potential of somebody getting the virus, which is a terrible, terrible thought. So yeah, it's one of those really bittersweet, conflicting situations in a fan standpoint. So yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts for that.
I'm gonna take this moment because I'm gonna do an "I told you so" to you guys, and then I'm gonna go into my point.
I know
they paid all the fighters from UFC London. I told you so. I told both of you guys so.
Pleasantly surprised.
Yes, that was a great thing.
So, what about the other events?
Yeah, that's fair. That's kind of a middle ground, I guess. We're both right to an extent. So UFC 249, I'm going to go out on a limb and say I'm not going to hold my breath on it happening. I don't think it does. I think the fight gets rescheduled. I honestly can see it happen on International Fight Week. I'll just push it back a month because I feel like this will blow over. Think about that. It'd be a great card. So, but what about the cards in between now and UFC 250? What do they do with those? Do they say, hey, we're going to try and keep these cards on the books, and if we can't do it, we can't do it? Or do they just go ahead and say, hey, guys, look, scrap it? Because there's the idea of these fighters do want to fight because they're not in a union and they don't get paid regardless. They need to fight to get paid for the most part. But on the other hand, you don't want to spread the virus at the same time. There's a public health concern. So what are y'all thoughts on the upcoming events? I don't even remember what's the next one's coming. I haven't been paying attention. Drake?
I think that UFC Lincoln is the one that's still, scheduled to happen. We're supposed to get UFC Portland like next week. It's going to be there for that. So I think, yeah. Nope, not today. Not never. It sucks. Why not just put them back and stack it up, man? Like we were talking about last week, all the amazing cards that we will get out of this. I mean, come on. It's like why wouldn't you kind of want that, right? Especially when you look at this year and the schedule we've gotten so far. I'm pretty much just repeating myself from like last week and everything, but yeah, the cards haven't been loaded at all in 2020. We've gotten some good sprinkles here and there, right? Like, Jones Reyes, awesome. And then, rest of the card, you're like, it's okay. and that's been the case with even like Cerrone and McGregor. They're just banking on the headlines, right? The cards haven't been too many. The best card, honestly, like most stacked that I think we've seen so far was probably the last one. Brasilia was pretty loaded, man. Pretty loaded. So, yeah, I feel like, and think about how much more people are going to want. Absence makes the heart grow fonder, right? So the less fights that we're getting, and then we get just a bundle of goodness, right? You can't go wrong with that. Will they do it? If they must, I guess. But I feel like that is the way to go, if you ask me.
Davison?
I feel your pain on that too, Drake. I mean, Weidman and Hermanson were supposed to headline probably about 15 minutes from my front door. And I was going to be there as well. I still hadn't decided whether I was going to, try to apply for a credential or just go as a fan, maybe bring my pops. I still hadn't decided that yet.
I got completely approved, man.
Oh, man.
Me and you got to talk, Drake.
After Barboza and Emmett, since I got approved in Houston a couple of months ago and went down there, I mean, I have a feeling like I would have been fine to apply for Oklahoma City. But at the end of the day, after Barboza and Emmett was supposed to be on the dock, that's when I really started thinking, do I want to be there as media or do I want to be drunk in the stands to see them? But at the end of the day, I think these cards are in doubt. Lincoln is the one that I think is most certainly in doubt. I know that there have been reports that health committee Nebraska let's take this conversation into a public health standpoint for just 2 seconds. Nebraska is a very individualistic state when it comes to pandemics or biomedical anything because they have biocontainment units in a couple of their hospitals in Omaha and Lincoln. So they are a much more proactive state when it comes to this. Now, why is it Nebraska? Don't know, but that's just how the cards have been dealt. And so I would say the probability of that card happening, slim to none. I would say, once we get into the beginning of May, that's when I think the deck could be reshuffled. But, as you said, Blaine, I'm not holding out hope that 249 is going to happen. Who knows if we can even make it to 250 with things happening either. Now, if they want to move things to Vegas and do things Dana's way, or maybe even do the silo idea, I just don't know. Things are about to get really creative. That's what I'm saying. But it's just a big cloud of uncertainty at this point, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think all the fights are going to get canceled, and I don't want them to pull up my heartstrings and have my hope up for Lincoln, because that's just I don't want it. So guys,
can I present a question?
Yes.
Can I present a question, you guys?
Absolutely.
All right. So there was a media member who did an interview with other media members this week. I don't exactly want to name him just because I don't know where you guys will fall on the subject, but if you saw this, you'll know what I'm talking about. They said that they think it's important for them to go and cover, 249, let's say if it happens, or cover events. So I'm just curious, like, what do you think, being media guys ourselves, where do you fall on that line of thought? Their explanation was a little better than hearing just flat out like that, but also when you read it, you're like, So what do you think?
So I have a wife, I have a kid, I have a mom with congestive heart failure, and a dad who survived cancer 5 years ago. I am absolutely not going to any events whatsoever and compromise the people closest to me. I'm out. You can have it, bro.
Absolutely.
Have my spot.
Absolutely. And, me being I'm around my family quite a bit, and like my dad's side of the family, and a very large majority of the people I'm around in my dad's side of the family are age 50 and up. So, my grandparents at this point are basically quarantined, blocked off in their own little retirement village, just like around the corner. They can't even go for a walk around their complex without wearing a mask. They have to wear a mask or they can't get out their front door. And You put all that into perspective. I even had a dream, believe it or not, a couple of nights ago. I was inside Chesapeake Energy Arena in an empty arena, and Hermanson and Weidman were getting ready to walk out, and I'm there as media, and I'm looking around, I was like, okay, this is not real. Like, there's no because I'm thinking to myself, what am I doing here? Why am I here? And then like the creepish nightmare feelings come into effect, and then boom, you wake up. That was enough, really, for me to be able to answer the question with a wholehearted no. No, won't do it.
Yeah, I'll just cover it from my house on the pay-per-view that I legitly bought.
Yeah,
throw in the legit part.
Yeah, legitimately buying them.
Yep, that's it. So, guys, I got one more question for you guys. I think we did it last week without having a name on it. So this week I'm asking you the crazy question of the week. The crazy question of the week is, who is the Joe Exotic of the UFC? Drake, you go first.
Mike Perry. Mike Perry.
Bingo.
Hold on.
Right away.
I posted. I got to update it live. I got to do this live.
He's the ghetto Joe Exotic though. Like
that's true.
Because Mike Perry at the end of the day, that's a good question. I just watched the whole thing the past couple of days. I didn't finish
it. Don't spoil it.
I mean, how many episodes are you through it?
4.
4? Okay, so there's still a lot of craziness to come. I mean, once you get through 6, I mean, episode 7 is just like the last episode is basically just like them just like looking back. So like, I mean, you could realistically finish episode 6 and then cap it. But at the end of the day, that'll require some thought. Who is the Joseph Maldonado passage of the UFC? That's a good. Mike Perry's too in tune with the streets for me to kind of use that as, I don't know. That's a good question. You could easily go back though pre-USADA and you could find someone quickly.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna go out and name mine first. I'm going with Thug Nasty, Bryce Mitchell.
Oh my god,
that's not a bad one. I think Bryce Mitchell is a little bit smarter than people suggest. I mean, I think he's a little smarter than some of the words that come out of his mouth.
Oh yeah.
I think he definitely is. People call him an idiot and everything like that after saying what he did recently. I think he's smarter than the rap that people give him. As far as Joe Exotic, that dude is a dunderhead. He is a moron. So you got to think.
You got to pick somebody. Come on.
You've got to match Drake. You got think pre-USADA though, in my opinion. Like, someone with the Thomas Gifford look, but not Thomas Gifford, clearly.
Yeah, way opposite.
You can't change your pick, Drake. It's too late.
I know. I like my pick.
You do.
It's got to be someone pre-2013, like someone back in the day. It looks like you're wanting to say something.
Big country.
Big country. Hey, yeah, that might not be a bad one.
Is that your official pick? Because I got to tweet it at Big Country. Because I already tweeted at Mike Perry for Drake.
No, that's not my official pick. I need you might have to give me a 5-minute grace period after we're done recording, so I can think about it just a little bit further. Because I can come up with a really good one if I put some thought into it.
Okay, we'll give you a grace period this week, but next week there will be no crazy question grace period. And the rule of the crazy question is I don't get to tell you guys ahead of time. I just spring it on you because that's the fun part.
This could be our first segment. This could be our first segment. It's the crazy question of the week. Like
I'm going to splice that audio and it's going to play before every crazy question.
Yes. Crazy question of the week.
All right, guys, it's been a great second episode of Open Mat, and I'm looking forward to 1 million more because we're doing this once a week, and 1 million divided by 52 is like 400 years or something. We're going to have to be old. Yes. So, where can everybody find you guys on social media? Davison, you go ahead and go first.
Dave Bake MMA is where you can find me. And if you're not into only MMA, my pinned tweet right now has my D-Bake NBA Mock Draft 1.0. You can find that at Dave Bake MMA.
And Drake Daddy, where can everybody find you?
Twitter and Instagram at Drake Riggs _ YouTube Drake Riggs. I can see I post most of everything on Twitter, so that's the spot to follow me. Just recently dropped a really interesting chat, I thought, with 3 of the most experienced judges in the sport. Talked to them, got to hear their side of things a little bit because we're always throwing stuff at them, but don't get to hear back from them. So that was really interesting. Check that out. That was on my MMA News. Yeah, and then got some more stuff coming out, of course.
And as always, you can follow me on Twitter at Blaine Henry TFL and check out my website, fight-library.com. I've got interviews coming with, who is it? I said it earlier.
Wait, don't say it. Oh.
Ben Egley. And then Chris Evangelou, who is a boxer who starred in The Gentleman, Matthew McConaughey. I'm really excited for that one to come out. It's a pretty fun one. Anyways, guys, drop a review, drop a sub. We appreciate it. It's great for the channel. We are done for the night. Bye.